as part of EU Roma Week. My name is Szilvia. I am the Executive Director of Uccu Roma Informal Educational Foundation, and I will be your moderator this session. And I would like to introduce our main key persons, Lars Engsted, DG EMPL from European Commission, and he will talk about Roma youth empowerment and awareness for change. This is your floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thanks a lot for inviting the Commission here to this event. I have to say in the beginning that we do not have very particular evidence, at least on an EU-wide level, on Roma. Of course, it is a part of the inclusion work we are doing in DG employment. One of the things I think that has also complicated it is that the Commission, I think it was a couple of years ago, decided basically to move the legal aspects of Roma to DG Just, while the inclusions are still remaining in DG employment. So it's a bit split. And then, yet again, we are another unit where I come from, taking care of the youth employment again. So it's a bit split, but of course the most important part, or at least for us, is of course the inclusion aspect also, and to make sure also to ensure that Roma are being included in the labor markets also. Yeah, I think you can go to the first. Yeah, so I can only give you then a very general introduction to what we are doing actually on an EU level on youth employment. And this is basically through this, what we are calling the Youth Guarantee, which was a council recommendation adopted back in 2013, renewed or updated in 2020, the so-called Youth Guarantee. As you will see here, the principle is basically that within 4 months of unemployment for a young person, they have to be provided with either a job, apprenticeships, traineeships, or perhaps also continued education. We have had a number of funding supporting this council recommendation, and the whole idea of the Youth Guarantee. The social fund, the ESF, has been a very important. But we had also in the first year this what is called Year J, the Youth Employment Initiative, which was a specific budget actually given to implement the Youth Guarantee. At least in the first, I think it lasted 5 years, the first period for that. Then, of course, we have national budgets also in member states that are supporting it here. I think you can go to the next. Okay. This is the one where they fall down from the sky. So again, the main elements, you could actually part into 4 different components of the Youth Guarantee. On the one hand, it's a question of mapping, identifying the groups, available services also to these groups. Also, maybe through some tracking and early warning systems have become very important also in the last years. And there's the whole outreach phase, which is actually has been a bit of the principal challenge we have had with the Youth Guarantee, I think I can say. So the whole question of making sure that young people who are out there, they are actually being registered at the public employment services. Because if they are not registered, we know that they are out there somehow. We don't know exactly what they are doing. So it's the registration, of course, is the very first step that comes in front of some of the others here. Then there's a preparatory phase also, where we are using these mapping, the profiling tools to somehow design an individual action plan for the young person. This could be in terms of providing skills updating, additional education, but it could also be in terms of providing social services that could be needed for these young people. And finally, then there's the actual offer that is being given to them. As I said again, could be 4 different elements I mentioned before, but at least they need to have a sort of offer after 4 months of being unemployed. There's a number of partnerships built up across the EU. Civil society are participating, social partners are participating also. And then we have a quite important data collection also. And this is here where I come back to what I think I said in the beginning, that we do collect data on this, but not to the level where we can really see the different groups of young people within here. But these data are administrative data that are collected every year. We have a contractor that helps us doing that. And they basically look at some of the inputs, some of the extent to which we are really respecting these 4 months delays there for giving a young person a concrete offer. But it also looks very much at follow-up data. So how is the situation 6 months, 12 months, 18 months after they have been through the youth guarantee? And this is maybe the most important indicators on that. I already talked about, I think, the funds we have available also here. I think you can go to the next. Okay, so here again, when we look at the young people and the essential part of the youth guarantee is basically on what we call needs. So people not in employment, education or training. So it's people we know are out there, but we know exactly they are not at the labor market, they are not in training institutions neither. So there is an element of inactivity. I will come back a bit to in the next slides here on the components of that also. But at least what we have seen, maybe apart from a small hike, I think everyone also understands with the COVID in 2020 that disturbed basically all statistics. We have an EU level and national level with this shock we got there. But if we look away from that, there has been a steady decrease in the need rates since 2014 when the youth guarantee was adopted. And this is not cyclical. I mean, there are no economic cycles that last 10 years in that sense. So there is a structural improvement here. There is no doubt about it. And this is also what evaluations have shown. We will go to the next. So when we look at young people, we are trying also to define a bit the type of barriers they have to enter the labor market. And here we tend to look at 2 different types of barriers. Here what we call the structural barriers, and this is very much linked to all the services that are being given through active labor market policies, skills updating, as I said again, but also making sure that the training systems are there. So it's a whole question of the capacity of what you can support, which differs a lot across member states also. Social services, I think I already spoke about. It can also sometimes be health provisions, because sometimes these young people, they have more challenges than just being outside the labor market. There might be addiction problems, there might be housing problems, there might be a lot of problems related to the whole social services area also again that is and then of course we have the disabilities, which is also an important obstacle in sense. But again, these are the things we are normally trying to deal with within the European semester with the annual country specific recommendation and policy advice the Commission are giving to member states again. And if you go to the next and this is something I think at least in the first years that was maybe a bit not overlooked, but at least not very focused. What we would more call the institutional barriers. And I think the graphic I will show in a minute will also show a bit how different they are really and how important they are, each one of them. But again here, these could be more linked to childcare facilities, could also be linked to the whole labor market protection, employment protection legislation in the labor market. Housing, I spoke about already, is something that can really prevent young people from entering. And of course, then there are the mobility constraints also, legal, moving towards language also, and recognition of qualification. And this is also here where I think Roma really comes in also in these last areas here. I think you can go to the next. Okay. So what I was just saying before, I'm not sure you can do a one-to-one, but there is a large tendency that when we look at the needs, there are two types of needs. There's what we call the active, so the unemployed and the inactive. And the unemployed needs are basically those that are still outside the labor market training institution, but they are registered in an employment service there. So they are basically ready to work. While on the other hand, you have the inactive needs also that are basically outside. They're totally outside everything that is being registered. And as you see the numbers here, it's a bit 50-50. It has changed a bit over the years, but the two groups are almost equally high in that sense again here. And there's no doubt about that, especially the inactive needs are also very much those that are concerned about the institutional barriers I mentioned before. I think one of the next graphs will also show the different elements of it. I think you can go to the next. Yeah, so we asked Eurofound, they made a report in 2024, exactly on this area here, where they tried to establish really who are these needs, what are the reasons why there are needs. And they published this in, I think, March 2024. We asked them if they could help us updating the figures to 2005 figures, 2025 figures, because we were using them in our annual review we had in November 2025 in EMPL, in the EMPL regime. So they helped us doing that, and you see a bit the numbers here. What we see in the left side is very much what I would call the structural indicator. So that's the whole question of being sometimes short time, that's maybe the less problem. Long-term unemployed, also here where it's a question of giving them active labor market policies, adequate active labor market policies. And then we have on the other side over here, care responsibilities, disability, that are maybe the big ones here, where it's more institutional, where something you need to do much more really than just active labor market policies. You would need to really provide a different type of support also to do something. There's a lot of inactive needs that are, yeah, you could say even heavily needs because they are taking care of children. Could be the first 3 years. A young mother is taking care of them, and they have absolutely no problem. So it's voluntary a bit, but again, it's a bit of a loss for the whole society in terms of labor supply, in terms of some of the demographic challenges we are going to face in the EU. So this is why there is also a focus on that also. Then we have finally also out here the other reasons there. Here I would imagine also part of this here would also be challenges faced by Roma in that sense here. Discouraged workers is another but fairly small part of it also. But again, we don't have more details, or we can really go down and see the exact group on what are the main reasons for it. And please go to the next, which I think more is basically the same again, but it shows per member state. But you will see again here a quite interesting thing. You have a number of member states where these structural ones, so those linked to active labor market policies, are dominant, while in other member states we have it's really the institutional ones that are dominant. Take for example Romania. We have here Bulgaria. It's a bit the same, where we have relatively few. Relatively low share of needs that are due to long-term unemployed, short-term unemployed, re-entrants, or where the majority are really more linked to care responsibilities, illness, disability, and so on. So here again, there's quite some difference across member states. When you look at it. Yeah, I think you can go. I think there's one left. Yeah. So just to give you a few numbers here at the end on how the implementation has been, we calculate now that since 2013, about 57 million young people have been through the youth guarantee. This is quite a number, actually. Think about we have 450 million in the EU. So since 13 there has been a lot of activity. I mentioned already the annual data collection we are collecting and the review we are having every 2 years, really to see the implementation and to monitor to what extent member states are implementing the youth guarantee. And again, here there are I think I can say there are quite differences in the success of implementation. The last review we had in November 2025 demonstrated also quite some strong political commitment. We had exactly in this review decided to focus a bit more also on the institutional barriers to see a bit whether this is something member states they have started addressing also. Because again, as I said before and showed before the numbers, half of the needs are really due to some sort of institutional barriers also. It is starting, but it's still, the typical focus is still on the more traditional activation policies there. Skill mismatches is still seen as an obstacle also, so simply ensuring the right skills for the needs of the labor market. Health and housing is also being signaled by a number of member states in that sense there. But we have also seen quite, and this is encouraging, a strong cooperation between stakeholders, also quite often at local levels, simply getting together in terms of getting people back to work or getting them adequate offers to enter the labor market. And then we are also facing, or here these member states are facing problems also in terms of data protection. There are information exchange challenges there when you have to typically exchange between ministries, when public or employment services have to ensure that clients, they also get social services, so there is interactions between several ministries, and the data protection rules sometimes are also creating problems in this context. Yeah. I think I will finish here. This is also more than 10 minutes, I think, and so I don't know whether you have any. I think that we already had, so there shouldn't be any more now. Don't know whether you have any questions. I'm happy to answer.
Yes. Thank you so much. So today we would like to introduce our project. It's a Roma Reach project, and it's Roma Youth Empowerment and Awareness for Change. This project is a 2-year project running from July 2024 to June 2026. Funded by European Education and Cultural Executive Agency under the third program. We are here with Roma youth who share with them experiences about decision making, and our program goal is to strengthening the social and political participation of Roma youth. We are working together from partners Hungary, Spain, and Bulgaria. For us, Uccu Foundation, this is a very important moment because in Hungary now we have opened a new chapter because of the elections in public life and democratic participation. But these changes are happening in an unequal and often hostile environment. And the Roma communities still face systematic and collective racism, and hate speech is becoming more common in public life. And this situation not only limits their opportunities, but also discourages them from taking part. That's why I think it's really important to speak about Roma communities, because Roma communities are still often excluded from decision making, and young people's voices are not properly heard. Prejudice, institutional barriers, and inequality make it hard for Roma youth to participate in public life. So This is why this voice of Roma youth is not just important, but essential for building a truly democratic and inclusive society. Their participation is key long-term change and the Roma emancipation. This is not only important in Hungary, for Hungary, but I think all over the Europe. In response, our project focus on practical solutions. Our goal is not only to show the problems, but actively support Roma youth so they can be confident and active participants in public life and not only take part, but also share this process. As you can see, there is our goal. And it was really important to us understand why this project is needed. This initiative important because the social and political participation of Roma youth remains significantly low across many European countries, especially in countries like Hungary, Bulgaria, and Spain. Despite growing interest in public issues, many young Roma faces barriers such as discrimination, lack of access to information, and limited opportunities to engage in decision-making process. As on one of the most marginalized groups, Roma youth are often excluded from spaces where their voice shouldn't be heard. By addressing these challenges, the project helps create more equal opportunities for participation and representation. It empowers young people with the knowledge and skills they need to understand their rights and take an action. Our goal is identify and apply new methods to increase the participation of Roma youth in decision-making and democratic participation. And we would like also to raise awareness and boost Roma youth participation in the realization of the new EU Roma strategy framework, or provide a platform for young Roma to provide recommendations and influence policy making. This project implemented by 3 partner organizations. The Uccu Foundation from Hungary was established in 2010 with the aim of creating a platform for Roma and non-Roma youth to connect and engage. We have extensive experience in non-formal education and awareness raising, working through interactive schools program and thematic works led by Roma youth, addressing stereotypes and building dialogue. CampusRom from Spain plays an important role in advancing educational opportunities for Roma youth. The organization focuses on supporting Roma students in higher education through mentoring, training, and community building, while also contributing to international research or youth participation and empowerment. And our organization, DROM, for Bulgaria, is a leading voice for Roma rights in Bulgaria. With dedicated experience in Roma integration, they work on education, housing, and human rights advocacy, as well policy-level programs. Their work plays a key role in promoting inclusion and driving meaningful change at the both community and policy level. Together with this program, we combine strong experience in education, research, and activity. In this way, the project goes beyond raising awareness and creating real pathways for participation, empowerment, and long-term impact. To achieve this, we structured our work around 3 main pillars that guide all our activities, help us move from understanding the problem to creating real change. These pillars are understanding empowerment, and advocacy. Understanding. Let's start with the first pillar, understanding. Before one created effective solution, it is essential to clearly understand the challenge Roma youth face. We conducted research in Hungary, Spain, and Bulgaria, use a mixed method approach combining surveys, interviews, and focus group. This research examined the political, social, and civic engagement of Roma youth in Hungary. The quantitative phase involved a structured survey that made general patterns of participation, attitudes, and experience, while the quality phase included 13 interviews and 3 focus groups explored personal narratives in greater depth. The results confirm the participation is low across all countries, while motivation among Roma young is strong. The main barriers are discrimination, economic difficulties, and lack of information. At the same time, young people are motivated by personal experiences, identity, and role models. Overall, even though activism levels are different from country to country, the study finds similar patterns of marginalization across borders. It also shows that Roma youth are willing to get involved if they have the right support. The next pillar was the empowering, and with this we just organized training and workshops for the Roma youth, and we just try to understand their situation, and with these trainings and workshops, we try to give for them important tools for future of Roma advocacy and activism, and as they can provide participants with important information and skills needed for strengthening democratic participation and advocacy. These workshops provided the democratic space where concrete proposals were born. Through structured debate, role-playing, it's like, for example, simulating parliamentary opposition and civil society roles, and direct analysis of the EU Roma strategic framework and civil Roma monitoring. Young Roma activists critically identified gaps in current policies and formulated their own direct actionable solution. These activities help young people understand how decision-making works, develop skills for active citizenship, and build confidence to act in life. The next level, and it's not the final, it's important that knowledge and skills gained are translated into real action and real influence. That's why our third pillar focuses on advocacy. Through workshops, field debates, and role-playing, young people develop concrete policy ideas and recommendations. 7 young Roma activists created 10 strategic policy recommendations, and they have the opportunity to present them at events such as EU Roma Week, directly engaging with policymakers. Through this progress, Roma youth are not only, but also given real opportunities to participate and influence decision making. Our aim is not only to understand challenge or empower individuals, but to create a real change. We want Roma youth to be heard and not to actively shape the policies that affect their lives. Today you will not hear about youth as beneficiaries, you will hear them as a policymakers. They are not only the future, they are the present. Thank you very much. So thank you so much, and we are going further. I would like to give your floor Rosa María from Spain, from CampusRom.
Hello, everyone. Yes, hello. I'll moderate, so I also will put these signs. So thank you. Thank you, Szilvia. Thank you, sir. That's me. You don't need my name. Yes, so we'll put, we have, can I call Miguel, please?
Yeah.
And Ábrahám, Alexandra, Teodor, and Ivan. Please make your way forward. We're a bit squished, so be creative with how I put these signs. Yes? Okay. Okay. Yeah, just you go there. Okay, so everything okay? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay, so I will edit a bit of what I was going to say because we're a bit behind on schedule. So yes, we've heard that the Roma youth are parts of, and not, I loved how you put that they are not only the future, but they're present. And so I would just like to say that as a member of CampusRom and being part of the organization in a number of ways, CampusRom, working with our colleagues, has been a real exciting opportunity to offer and to give this space and to give platforms for the youth to actually move things in the direction that they also feel. But before, can you just tap the? There is one thing that I will not cut out of my presentation. And so what I'd like everyone to do is to just follow me for a moment. If you can take your hands, please. Yes, it is after lunch. Oh, you've touched it. Yes. Thank you. And your hair, be careful that it doesn't do. Thank you. So if you could rub your hands, please. I know it's a bit odd. Yes. Just take a moment and really rub your hands. A little bit faster. A little bit slower. Oh. Please find the slide. Please find the slide. And a little bit slower. And just take a moment to observe. Okay, let's just leave it like that. Take a moment to observe. So let's rub our hands again. And slow. And just take a moment to observe your hands. It might be fast, it might be tingling, you might feel like, who is this crazy lady asking me to do things? Yes? But what I'd like you to do is the slide that was up there was one of the basic human rights, and it was from a children's book, and it was saying that every human should be treated fairly. And while we know that that is written in black and white in a number of places, many of us know, if not everyone knows, that that's not true. And for some of us, from some communities, we experience the discrimination. It's okay, that's not me. And we experience discrimination, not only here, it's not only on paper, but it's in our bodies. And so that sensation, that feeling of your hands, imagine that as a negative. Imagine that feeling flowing through your body and not being able to have the words or the tools or the platforms for someone to explain what you're feeling. And that is what we hope that with our projects, why we're all here in this room, but also for the future, that we can not only think about it as people over there, as data, as we need all of that, but we also have to remember that we're talking about humans. These are our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, our fathers, our children, our children's children. Yes, and that's really, really important. And I think as you're listening for this session, but also for the rest of the day and in your own work, just try to remember, let's try to humanize things, because the body, the mind, the soul, all of that is part of it. And I think that's also very Roma. So, a lot of us wear our colors when we can, because there's something about that life. And so I'd like us to also remember that. I will not go through my presentation. As you can see, there were lots of things. You don't need to hear that. But what I will do is I'd love to give the space to my young people. Now, I do have an order. That I will keep to. Yes. So I'd like to invite Ábrahám to start us off, please. Ábrahám, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ábrahám Oláh, teacher of history, literature, and grammar. Currently, I'm a student of state sciences at the University of Public Service, and I also plan to obtain my doctorate in this field. I am also an intern at the Uccu Foundation, where our work focuses on non-formal education and fostering dialogue between Roma and non-Roma communities. As part of this internship, we have developed a policy recommendation. I wrote my thesis on the history of memory regarding the Roma Holocaust. My current research focuses on the Roma as procedural law category in the 18th century. I am sorry that I must speak today about experiences that are forbidden by both Hungarian and the European Union laws. When we debate segregation, we often hide behind cold statistics. But we must not forget. We are not talking about numbers, but about human lives, broken futures, and wasted talents. In Hungary, the free choice system prevails in education, but this creates deep divisions. This leads to the creation of schools where Roma children do not receive quality education, and further study is no longer seen as a goal. The Pygmalion effect takes hold, and its greatest victims are those Roma youth who could just as easily become lawyers, politicians, and teachers as well. The division in Hungary is multi-layered. There is a deep gap between the capital and the countryside, visible in salaries, jobs, education, and opportunities in every level. However, there is an even more painful division: the international segregation within towns. These rural ghettos suffer from multiple disadvantages. Yet, every person, regardless of their ethnic background, wants the same thing: a livable environment. Access to clean water, usable roads, shops, and postal services is not a privilege. These are basic rights. I worked for 4 years in a segregated area. I learned that if we use respect and real partnership instead of procedures, the walls start to crack. Change starts from within, provided there is a fair and welcoming environment. We must see that segregated housing and segregated education go hand in hand. This exclusion systematically stops people from making a living and acting as full citizens. We must be clear. Poverty is not a Roma issue. However, discrimination and racism, not just in Hungary, but all over the Europe, are Roma issues. Today, poverty is internationally mixed up with Roma identity. Because of this, we are not seen as partners, but as tools. Or worse, we are blamed for the problems. In reality, we are part of the society. We want to be active citizens. My vision is simple. For the laws to be respected, I want the Roma to be visible to the system, not only for their duties, but also for their rights. We have the same dreams as anyone else: education, work, and a safe environment for our children. For this, we don't need projects. We need Europe to finally recognize as partners in building our shared future. I am Roma. I am also Hungarian. I am son, grandson, and brother. And in the future, I will be husband and father as well. I dream of the society where diversity is not a problem, but a real value. I truly hope that our recommendation will be integrated into political practice. We have two duties to fulfill too. Raise our voice, raise our hands, and do it, not alone, together, because everyone has value. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And swiftly moving along to Alexandra. Thank you. Also from Hungary. So yes, please.
I'm so sorry about the.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the floor. I am Alexandra Kökény, a 20-year-old university student from the Uccu Foundation in Hungary. We have put together important things in our policy paper that closely touch upon memory activism, access to higher education, and the situation of Roma women. These are the things I am going to talk to you about today. Have you heard about the racist murders committed against Roma people? In 2008 and 2009 in Hungary, a few people with far-right views carried out several planned terrorist attacks. Terrorist attacks where 6, including a 5-year-old boy, Szilvia. He died together. The newspapers didn't even report it today. Until today, they have not declared this day, February 23rd, an official memorial day. Almost no one remembers them outside the Roma community. First of all, tell me, how can it happen that to this day, this is not National Commemoration Day in Hungary? And if you look at other memorial days, like the International Roma Holocaust Memorial, which we finally managed to make a real memorial day, the majority society simply refuses to take notice of it. The level of anti-Gypsyism is that high, especially in Hungary, but globally as well. These days are important to us. Remembrance is important, but the most important thing is that not just we should remember these, but everyone. Specifically, there will be no need for these memorial days if there hadn't been a Holocaust or if a child hadn't had to die because of this. If anti-Gypsyism, which has been present from the beginning and continues unbroken to this day, hadn't existed, then there is the situation of Roma women. To this day, Hospital segregation in maternity wards is a common custom, and even now, in the 21st century, there have been cases where obstetric violence appeared and even forced sterilization or forced abortion too. Because of intersectionality, I am not exaggerating when I say the situation of Roma women is twice as hard as that of men. And it is simply visible in Hungary that besides local NGOs, no one helps us in this topic. That to this day, authentic, fair Roma media representation is almost completely absent, especially that of Roma women. As a Roma woman, I have to endure the consequences of the patriarchal society and the racism at the same time, even though people don't think at first that I am Roma. Because the moment that this comes up, or you dare to speak up because of a racist remark, the stigma is already on you. In Hungarian public discourse, Roma and Hungarians are kept separate. And no matter how many times we say it, no matter if we know it, and they know it too, that we are Hungarians, the next politician in the parliament will say again, Roma and Hungarians. After the elections, now Hungary has a chance not to change the past, but the future. Roma people have to be in the decision making, because without us, there is no democracy. As I am a Roma woman, one of the most important things is to raise my voice. We are talking about a constant struggle, which the Roma minority is so tired of that they rather assimilate. This is an existing problem that should be dealt with. If I apply for a job in Hungary, my job depends on whether I am Roma. If a group laughs at the salon racist Roma joke and I dare to speak up, they say I am the exception. I am not an exception. I am a European Hungarian citizen with Hungarian and Roma identity. And every single day, I am faced with a choice because I cannot be who I am. Otherwise, I either don't get work, or people will hate me, or I am deprived of opportunities. I am a second-year student at university. In Hungary, Roma still occupy very few places in higher education. Only a few persons can study at university in Hungary today, and this is partly because, according to the latest research, 80% of Roma in Hungary lives in deep poverty. Do you understand? About 1 million Roma people live in Hungary, and 80% of them live in deep poverty. Honestly, how could we accept Roma to be university students when they worry every day about having something to eat? This should be solved first, with job and housing opportunities, support, and by being treated as human beings. Because no, this meritocracy is not happening. And structural racism set up by the majority society. I would like to take action for these matters, and together we could achieve change. I would like this important issue to be a constant topic. I would like you and the whole European Parliament to see us as important enough so that we are not only mentioned for 1 week, because we are decision makers. Thank you.
Very vulnerable offering. Thank you very much. Yes, you are decision makers. Yes, you are. And I'm not on to our. We're going to have Ivan, please. Thank you. So we're moving. Sorry, yes, to Bulgaria. So thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I am Ivan Rusinov. I am from Bulgaria, and I am social worker. And today I speak for this is where local political academies play important role. They help young people understand how political system works and encourage them to be active, through training, season debates, and political activists. These academies develop skills such as critical thinking and leadership. They are often supported by organizations like European Youth Forum. Youth mentorship programs are equally important. They connect young people with more experienced professionals who will side team. In this way, young people not only learn but also gain in experiences. A good example is the Erasmus Youth Programs, which offers learning and exchange across Europe. Youth mentorship programs are equally important. They connect young people with more professionals who guide and inspire them. In this way, young people not only learn but also experience and confidence. A good example is the Erasmus program and offers exchange. In coalitions, civil right gift is the practical and socially, but is the where we make use them. Support and activist engagement and young people gain political and become leaders of positive change. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ivan. And now to yes, Teodor, thank you.
Hello, my name is Teodor Evdokimov from Bulgaria. I am a teacher. The Roma community has its only educated representatives. The problem, in my view, is the lack of Roma presentation in higher institutions. Most educated Roma hold executive positions. There is a shortage of leadership personnel. Important issues concerning the Roma community are often addressed without Roma participation. Documents related to Roma integration are adopted without Roma participation. The community has its own educated representatives, and they must be included in addressing Roma issues. Policies regarding the Roma should not be made without their participation. Thank you.
And before I hand over to my colleague here, Miguel, I do want to say one thing from my slides. What we've been hearing is that when engaging the young people, when engaging the families, because we have to remember our Roma people are inter and intra-generational. So you can't just have the youth without our elders. You can't have a woman without understanding the dynamics and the relationship of the man and woman. So that gender element, and you touched on intersectionality. Yesterday we heard about hate speech and how it happens online, and but that has a real world impact. And also this morning about Roma women. And what I'd like to say is I sometimes work in the UK, and one of the things that we found with this project, so I'm trying to also say that when we think and engage the families, we can also use and get actual real political impact and have some traction. And this was an example where we wanted to work with health, chronic pain in older population of 40. And what we found immediately was, yes, we were going to work with co-researchers, but we had to use and engage our youth. And the youth were part of that dynamic. And the youth were not in work, so speaking to your work around needs, but through this, we made them co-researchers of a project. And so that relationship also with higher education, with academia, that's important to bring our community members into those spaces. And the other points that I'd like to make is the use of creativity. Creativity is another access point, an entry point to look at what we're talking about here of engagement, of understanding, of empowering, of agency, of political work. And that's really important. And again, these were just examples where when engaged, when using and co-creative methods and thinking about scientific research, but also that has and works, because in the UK, we also have families from Bulgaria. One of the main leaders on the other project is Bulgarian Roma. You know, we have Hungarian, we have Czech, Slovak, and they don't stay in one place. There's a mobility issue happening. So that's true for me. I work in Spain and in the UK. And so that's also an asset to what we're talking about here. And so we can't reject that. We have to use that. And so thank you for that. But now I'd like to move back to Spain to end and finalize this session on looking at youth and training and employment and what happens when you give and allow the young people to be This is what happens when we give our youth the power. There's a lot of moving hands and moving parts. Yes? Double tap. Click, click. Yes. Okay. We must be creative and go with the flow. Now, so I now give the floor to Miguel Santiago Cabares. Sorry, I said that wrong. But yes, and I just want us to remember that there is a reason that we have to work transnationally in this way. And that we need to also have our leaders supporting the project, politicians, but also the youth. So over to you, please.
Thank you very much, María. As mentioned, my name is Miguel Santiago Cabares, a young political student at the University of Barcelona, and I am actively involved in politics in Spain. With that said, it's an honor and for present to experience with digital content creation in CampusRom. Next, please. Okay. Today, a large part of European democracy is no longer happening in this room like this. It's happened outside, in online, in phones, in spaces where 1 million of younger Roma people like me wield opinion, identity, and participation every day. And I know what it means to try to have a voice in these spaces. And yet, the decision we make here is still you feel to reflect that reality. How dare my generation is already participation. We are already creating content. We are already defending our communities, but without support. And far too often alone, facing hate that tries to push us out of the public debate. This is not an anecdote. This is a democratic gap. And when part of the youth cannot participate on equal terms, we are not facing a digital issue, but democratic one. Because today, participation is no longer with only in physical spaces. It is in digital, that where the narrative are created, that where roles model of the image, that is also where the head is for in reproduce. And while young people is already active there, institutions are still arriving late. If we want a democracy that works in the 21st century, my first purposeful recommendation is Europe must invest a micro grant for youth digital activism. Funding system must adapt as young people participate today, fast, creative, and digital. We are talking about a flexible support for youth-led campaigns, podcasts, and digital storytelling. And well-taught to study can break more produce than institutional campaign. We are not asking for privileges. We are for tools. Because when young people have resources, this not just participate, this transfer. But there is another reality. Yet online has become normal Europe must act fairly against digital anti-gypsy. Hate cannot travel faster than rights. We must remove it quickly, but also prevent it. We need education to identify the challenge racism online. Because respectful internet is a democratic issue. Today, we are talking about power. And democracy, where young people cannot speak equally, is not complete. Europe has the talent. What is the missing is the vision. The future of democracy will online every single day. We are already there, and now Europe must rise to do the challenge. Thank you.
We don't have time for question and answers. Thank you. If you do have any questions for anyone from the panel or myself, please do find us at some point in a break or something. Can we just have another big round of applause for our and thank you also to all of you. So we will swiftly move on to the next panel. I will take these.
Just as a signal, we will be very quick with these last sessions. They're already great because the connections are so degree marks and unfortunately people will not stay. So it's either that or no closing remarks. Yeah.
Okay, can I have also Raul and Chila joining the panel, please? So that we are very quick with the. Unfortunately, we don't have time. You can see. We don't have time. I don't know if I should stand up or.
I think it's best that you're from this.
Yeah. Okay. Because like that we can move. So it's no problem. Thank you very much. We are approaching the end of year's Roma week. My name is María and I'm part of the Roma and Travelers Division of the Council of Europe. And I'm also very grateful for our colleagues in Ergo for opening space for us to organize events, moderate events within the Opera Roma Month, which is an initiative of the Council of Europe to celebrate Roma history, language, and culture. This session is not about celebrating history, language, and culture, but it's something else that the Council of Europe has potential at, and that's youth empowerment. And I'm also very happy, I have to say this, I know that we are running out of time, but I see so many familiar faces of the annual seminars of Roma Youth Together that we organize, also together with the Ergo, and Terite, and Pirena Mensa, and Eriak. So this is really, for me, an important sign that we are building really a new generation of Roma youth leadership. But to cut a long story short, we have 3 speakers here. We have maybe 20 minutes. I know it's less than what we foreseen, but we really have to finish closer to time. I have Csilla Berki from Uccu Foundation, Hungary. I also have Raul Castro, young Roma participant from CampusRom, Spain. And I have Stelina Dungai, Vice Chair of TERNIPE International Roma Youth Network with me. And with this, I give the floor to Csilla to start with the policy recommendations.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I am Csilla Berki. I'm a 20 years old university student, and I represent the Uccu Roma Informal Educational Foundation, and I am also a member of the Roma Reach project. Today, I am going to present to you the policy recommendations developed within the Roma Reach project. Our first policy recommendation is connected to school segregation. Despite its legal prohibition, educational segregation persists due to a massive implementational gap. Our research found that discrimination is a daily experience with 79.9% of Hungarian respondents reporting discrimination primarily in education. This data confirms that systematic exclusion and hidden segregation block Roma children from progressing to secondary or higher education. Therefore, our policy recommendation is the following. The disbursement of EU cohesion funds and ESF Plus resources must be strictly conditional upon compliance with anti-segregation standards. The EU must establish an independent audit mechanism with the power to freeze, suspend, or recover funds from the administrations that directly or indirectly maintain segregated infrastructures. Simultaneously, funds should be redirected toward providing free, inclusive public transport to ensure Roma students can access integrated, high-quality schools. And it is really important, Ábrahám also mentioned it, that this is fighting for basic human rights. Our next policy recommendation is connected to institutional racism. Institutional racism is recognized as a cross-cutting barrier. In Bulgaria, 70% of people reported discrimination, and in Spain, 75% of the participants noted that stereotyping by public officials, such as teachers, police, or healthcare staff, prevents equal access to basic human rights. As noted in DROM's regional assessment, bias created tension and reinforces social exclusion. Therefore, our policy recommendation is the following. National and regional authorities must introduce obligatory, continuous anti-bias and anti-discrimination training for all public, social, and sector professionals, such as educators, law enforcement, healthcare workers, and civil servants. Compliance should be monitored at the EU level, and institutional accountability mechanisms must be established to track reductions in discriminatory practices. Our next policy recommendation is connected to the housing first model and forced evictions. Since Roma communities face entrenched spatial segregation and environmental disadvantage, Roma youth strongly warned against policies where the elimination of settlements becomes anonymous, with forced evictions and displacement pushing families further into the margins. Municipal and national policies must adopt a structural housing first approach, supported by targeted investments from the EU Green Deal. The elimination of segregated settlements must be a rights-based process that guarantees immediate access to adequate social housing, secure tenure, and basic infrastructure, such as water, sanitation, or energy, before any relocation, expressly prohibiting forced evictions. Okay. Our last policy recommendation is connected to historical memory. The lack of historical recognition fuels contemporary racism. CampusRom highlighted over 600 years of Roma presence in Spain, marked by persecution, yet defined by resilience from Miguel. Furthermore, youth strongly reject the vulnerability metrics used by institutional media that only portray through poverty. As stated in the Spanish workshops, we are students, artists, dreamers, and entrepreneurs. Therefore, our recommendation is that a widely adopted EU-level definition of anti-Gypsyism must be officially established. Nationally, Roma history, culture, and the Roma Holocaust, Samudaripen, Poraimos, must be mandatorily integrated into school curricula. States should officially institutionalize commemorational days, such as the 23rd of February and the Roma Resistance Day, and incentivize public broadcasters to promote narratives of Roma pride, moving away from exoticization toward authentic self-representation. These are the most important policy recommendations that I presented to you, and we think that establishing and implementing these into the Roma strategy would help the Roma communities to develop.
Thank you so much. The less time they have. So I'm sorry. Raúl, I give you the floor. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Placid. My name is Raúl Castro. I'm from Spain, and I represent CampusRom. Today, I have the honor to present our policy recommendation. The number one. our multi-county research indicate a severe representation gap. Roma youth report that their participation in decision-making is often tokenistic, formal but not meaningful. Young activists from Uccu workshop highlighted that public policies repeatedly fail to reflect lived realities because Roma voices lack agent setting power. So the European Commission and member states must mandate the creation of Roma Youth Advisor Board. This body must have a legally binding influence over design, implementation, and evaluation. Roma youth must be recognized as policy actor and knowledge producer, not merely beneficiary. Number 2.
We will really need to go faster than that because we only have 1 minute.
Okay. According to the DROM survey in 2024, Roma youth feel deeply disconnected from macro politics. They feel too young, not informed enough, or not interested in voting. Yet they show a strong willingness to act if given the right platform. National government should use EU funds to establish political, academic, and mentorship programs. They must provide civil capacity building and equip young Roma of legally, political, communicative tools. Number 3, young people from CampusRom redefine civic engagement. Activism is not just protest. It is any action that improves your community. They produce 12 impactful videos on TikTok and Instagram and direct counter narrative to anti-Gypsyism.
Are we close to ending?
Se puede cerrar. Yes, it's closing.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm sorry.
2 points. Number 4, the digital sphere is deeply hostile. Roma youth report extortion from online hate speech, racist memes, and digital. Policy maker must enforce strict accountability on tech companies. Number 10, only around 1% of Roma youth reach university. However, Roma women lead community transformation. The education is not just bad, it is power, it is freedom, it gives you the tool to defend your rooms. Thank you.
So much. Now I have this uncomfortable thing to ask Stella to have only 2 minutes with the main messages so that we can close and allow for the official closing.
Thank you very much. I did my best to cut my speech as much as possible, so I'll try to share only the main message. Thanks for having me. I'm representing the International Roma Youth Network, and we have really mobilized a big group of young Roma from across Europe and beyond to join our movement of empowering them, giving them and creating the spaces for them to speak and voice the challenges and the needs that they have from their national perspectives. Very, very briefly, I heard a lot about not treating Roma youth only as beneficiaries, and I do agree with it. I think the whole network agrees with that, and that's why we are trying our best to create such spaces where we can advocate, because we believe that the Roma participation should not continue to exist only in the level of advice without having an influence, because then we would not be able to tackle or address anti-Gypsyism. Then, in order to do that, also listening to the recommendations, thanks a lot. I think they are very, very valuable and they should be taken into consideration and be given the serious commitment in it. There are 3 things that I wanted to highlight. And the first one, not for the recommendations, but for those who are listening to us, is the accountability, which should be emphasized and must become a routine, and it should not be exceptional, and should have the funding mechanisms, action plans, and strategies to stop relying only on trust and start relying on measurable consequences. Otherwise, discrimination will only remain as it is, and it will become an acceptable cost. The second one is the youth leadership, which we must start looking at it as and treat it as an infrastructure and not as a project cycle. We cannot be part of the projects all the time, or we cannot be in the tables just to share our opinions, but it has to go a bit beyond that. We cannot just focus on the soft empowerment or inspiration. We should build a permanent pipeline or a way into public administration, parliaments, regulatory bodies, and digital governance spaces. And the third one is that we cannot address the digital struggles separately or isolated from the physical realities. Therefore, they should be tackled together, because Roma youth are facing this dual exclusion, where one of them sometimes becomes more visible than the other. And yes, the part on the online space, it's very, very dehumanizing, and we should really put a lot of efforts to fight anti-Gypsyism online. And lastly, to wrap up, we should continue to support Roma youth, and we should not stop at endorsing recommendations. Let's make space, let's share power, and let's accept discomfort when there is space for that, because we are here, we want to share power, we want to give from ourselves, but then the question for you all is, how much are the institutions willing to share it with us?
Thank you so much. Very on point inputs. I'm sorry that we didn't have much time, but I now invite Gabi for the official closing. We are done.
You're so efficient.
You're very efficient. Thank you so much, and I really apologize. Yes, thank you.
You mean the Roma week? Do you have it? I don't. Oh, you don't? Okay. Then make it black. Negro. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, hello again. We are coming to final moments of the Roma week, and we are bringing forward the closing remarks, the final remarks of Roma Week 2026, and I'm very honored to welcome here Ana Gallego Torres. She's the Director General from the Directorate General of Justice and Consumers European Commission, from the DG Justice, the highest person we can have here actually in the hierarchy of this level in the European Commission DG Justice, and we are very happy that you accepted the invitation and that you would have closing remarks for the people. We have people here in the room, but also people watching online, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabriela, and good afternoon to you all, and also to those who are following online. It's my honor actually to participate in the closing of the Roma Week. Every year I try to have to save some time to either open, close, or participate in events in the Roma Week, because it's one of the landmark events in our policy for Roma equality. So thank you very much for organizing this. I want to start by thanking also the members of my team who have contributed to this organization, and indeed to all of you for taking part of the Roma Week. And indeed, 4 days ago you opened this week with high expectations, no? And today we close it, may I say, with evidence. Evidence of, first of all, of the quality of the debate. I know that when Roma voices shape the agenda, the quality of the debate is really strengthened. Evidence also of what is possible, what becomes possible when institutions and communities align their efforts, and this event is an example of interinstitutional cooperation and really gathering all inputs and strengths to make it possible. Can I just acknowledge today also the work of the main organizer, the Ergo Network, for what you have built here year after year. So this is a sustained effort. And I'd like to thank also all the partners who make this week possible. It's really the example of very close and fruitful collaboration. And looking back at these 4 days, I am impressed by the breadth of and the ambition of the agenda. This was a week of challenging conversations. You talked about online anti-Gypsyism, platform accountability, so important these days, where platforms and social media shape the public conversation. You addressed transitional justice, which is about reclaiming the past to rebuild a common future. You talked about Romanian queer women, for example, the intersecting forms of discrimination that largely remain invisible and can create so many suffering in individuals. And you talked also about different issues such as profiling and police violence against Roma communities. You addressed the fundamental rights of Roma communities facing security systems that often fail them. We have to be honest about this. And these are not easy topics to raise, yet here they are raised, they are debated, they are named, because what you don't name doesn't exist, and you have to be frank about this. And they are debated in an open manner without shying away of urgent needs and pressing issues. And this is what makes progress. Across every session, one demand was echoed: the acknowledgement of the problem must translate into concrete action. It's good to stop it, to debate, it's good to name what happens, but you also have to implement concrete actions. And actions must be measurable against our EU strategic framework for Roma equality, inclusion and participation. And here the evidence I was referring to is undeniable. We have the latest FRA data that demonstrates a number of structural failures, which are societal failures. And it's the responsibility of us all to address them. Can I give you just one example? 70% of Roma adults live at risk of poverty. This is 4 times the EU average. And for Roma children, this figure rises to 77%. This is completely unacceptable. We are failing our children. because the risk of poverty means the lack of opportunities to have a better future. The findings from our November's implementation dialogue leave no room for doubt. EU funding is not reaching Roma communities in an effective manner. Procedures are too complex. We are aware of this. Funding cycles are too short for sustainable change. And small Roma-led organizations cannot compete on equal terms with other applicants for funding who have leverage, who have other advantages. And this is a structural imbalance. Segregation in housing and education persists despite being a funding conditionality. And this, again, is a failure of the system. The direction is clear, but the gap between commitment and reality is not closing fast enough, and clearly not fast enough for these 77% of Roma children who live at the risk of poverty. Tuesday's panel on the multi-annual financial framework recalled that the next budget must embody our ambition for equality and inclusion. On Wednesday, Housing and Energy session reminded us that structural exclusion has an address, a postcode, and family living under adequate, for example, water or heating. So it does matter where you live, because the material conditions of your home, of your house, means also lack of opportunities for your family and risk of poverty in children that may have not sufficient heating in their house, not sufficient light to study, to do their homework, and to just play. On Thursday, so yesterday, still today, you discussed about enlargement. Roma communities in candidate countries are part of this story. So EU external action must also reflect that, and we have to prepare also the candidate countries to prepare the Roma communities for the enlargement. And then there was the energy of the youth event, Roma young people presenting policy recommendations, not as beneficiaries, but as architects, as shapers of their own destiny. And the message was clear: we have to step up the work to ensure that there is earlier involvement in decision-making. They have to be part of the discussion, real decision-making power. They have to be part of the decisions, and funding structures that work for grassroots Roma-led organizations. We heard you. We heard and we commit to carrying those demands forward. This is the shift we need to see sustained well beyond this week. I know that these events bring about a lot of energy, and they are very invigorating for those who, like you, who work throughout the year in these policies, and who put so much enthusiasm in the work you do and in concrete deliverables, to gather together with other people like you across Europe that work in the same area, and that share the same concerns, the same frustrations and aspirations, is very invigorating and energizing. But we have to go further, and even the enthusiasm that these events create need to be sustained and need to be accompanied also by action. And here is where public authorities also need to accompany you. The Commission leaves this Roma week with a clear sense of what civil society is asking for, and also with a responsibility to deliver. And this responsibility is not new. Over the years, we have built solid grounds. It is not enough, indeed. We cannot be complacent, but we have built some solid grounds to develop further results. This includes simplifying access to funding and direct support for civil society, and also real progress thanks to the Roma strategic framework and country-specific recommendations under the European semester. This is a very concrete tool to bring about change in member states. The country-specific recommendations in the European semester have an impact, and member states care about this, because it's a European semester is It's a council decision. It's not just recommendations from the Commission. All member states agree that this has to be done, and hopefully in the negotiations on the next MFF, this will also be translated into concrete deliverables, into concrete consequences for those member states who do not comply with country-specific recommendations on a systematic and recurrent basis. In recent months, our two strategies also reinforced that commitment. The anti-racism strategy identifies anti-Gypsyism as a distinct and deeply rooted form of racism, and the gender equality strategy also explicitly recognizes that Roma women face compounded disadvantage. This intersectionality is very much part of our approach. We also must take full use of the tools we have. For example, we have the Digital Services Act to create obligations for platforms to address illegal hate speech, including, of course, anti-Gypsyism. In relation to this, also the Code of Conduct on countering illegal hate speech binds platforms to act, and the Action Plan against cyberbullying protects users from online harm. So kids, Roma kids in schools, and cyberbullying victims. These instruments are already in place, they are bringing about change, and we will ensure that they are enforced. Roma communities must benefit from that protection in practice. These are political commitments. We will keep working to ensure participation and inclusion remain a priority. On funding, the next MFF must do more to allocate than allocate the resources. It has to ensure that they reach the communities. That means simpler procedures that include Roma organizations. Commission will work with member states to make it happen. Funding and frameworks only deliver if they reach those who need them. Roma children and their family. That delivery has failed them for too long. Two upcoming initiatives will be critical, and I want to mention the EU anti-poverty strategy, and on housing, the Council recommendation against housing exclusion that will push member states to ensure that vulnerable families, including Roma families, are not left at the margins. We will continue to support Roma civil society to promote better knowledge and understanding of their culture and history and their contribution to European culture and history. This week was called Building Bridges, and this is exactly what has happened. Bridges between institutions, bridges between different communities, between the past and the future, and between political commitment and lived reality, and I would add future action. Our task now is to make sure that these bridges hold. I would again want to thank Ergo Network and all the partner organizations for this event, and above all, thank you to the Roma women, men, and young people that brought your voices and your expertise and experience into these rooms and into this debate. We will take it forward and see you next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will still keep you a few minutes longer here, if you allow me. Thank you for bearing with us, and we are coming to the end, finally. After me, there is the end, really. I promise you. I still want to take the moment, a little bit reflect on what we did here this week, and let me also try to be a bit honest, because we also heard what kind of event we had. Many of you also went through all the events, and I believe that while we have very strong discussions and commitments over these past days, the reality outside the wall for our people, it's very difficult. And across the Europe, we have still millions of Roma who are facing daily exclusion. We had the FRA data, but I will remind them again, about 31% report discrimination just in 1 year. And nearly 70% remain on the risk of poverty. And for us, these are no statistics. I mean, these are our people. This is us, our families.
And we know that although we try very hard, sometimes this progress, it's very slow or it's uneven. And also this week shown that it might be actually, it kind of is showing us what might be possible. But we have to ask, and we ask these essential questions. What is the future of Roma inclusion under the new EU budget? So this is something that we look forward. But we also explore the areas, intersectionality and the experience of Romani queer women, youth leadership, anti-Gypsyism online, transitional justice, housing and energy poverty. Today we also explain this even further, looking at enlargement, justice system, Romani women leadership, and the role of youth in shaping what comes next. And let's be clear, because we have seen here is still what is still very rare. Roma voices shaping European debate. Roma expertise is being recognized. Roma leadership, especially by women and young people, is taking place. And I think, and we believe that this matters. And because being present is not the same as being heard, and being heard is not the same as having the influence. So, because we are not just a topic, but we are part of the European future. And I think that's what matters the most. So, we know there are strategies. We know there are frameworks. So everything is in place on the paper. But we have to make sure that the implementation from the member states is consistent and is actually making the difference on the ground. And we are all committed to fight the anti-Gypsyism, combat poverty, and ensure the equality. And although the gap is growing today, it's becoming harder to protect our communities, but we have to make sure that the work of civil society is not symbolic. So the fact that we are also here as the civil society organizing this Roma Week, it should be part of the structural change. So we are working together with those committed institutions. We always have to find those people in the governments, in those different institutions that actually we can do this work together. And whether it is European Union or whether it's on the member state level or whether it's coming to the very local level on the ground, where we always need to find those who would be committed to do the change with us, because it's about our people. And we are very grateful for all the support that come. And we also know that all these partners like European Commission, European Economic and Social Committee, Council of Europe, the Office of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the UN Women, UN Habitat, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Union Agency for Fundamental Rights, and Equinet, as well as the governments, local authorities, experts, academics, Roma representatives, civil society organizations, you, all of you here. So we can name many, but we are continuing to drive our work forward. And so I want to also especially thanks to the members of the European Parliament who were engaged this week. We had Krzysztof Snížek, Christoph Petrov, Nikolaj Stefanuca, Terry Reintke, Karla Tavares, Melissa Kamara, Marco Tarquinio, Zoltán Tár, Tomáš Zdechovský, Irene Tingali, María Ohisalo, Benedetta Scuderi, Tis Ruiten, Lauren Vince, Kathleen Function, and João Oliveira, and many Roma activists. And I see also that this list is growing. We don't have any Roma member of the parliament, but we are still making sure that we are getting those other parliamentarians committed. I mean, the number, it's still little out of this 700 plus MPs which are there, but we still have to make sure that we are growing this list and that we are getting the voices bigger. So we have to invest for stronger political will, for the clear accountability, and for sustained investment. And I thank you all. I thank Ergo, especially the team, for making this happen. And I hope that the future can be still more political for us, because that's where we are shaping the local realities of people. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you still want, we can take a photo of here together with